Hello and welcome to the Temple of Tomes with your host, Indie Comics Jones. Today is July 28th, 2022, and this is episode 525. Today we're looking at Jawbreakers Grand Bazaar. Ha ha ha. This is actually was a Indiegogo crowdfunded comic. It also came with a poster and dog tags. Now the dog tags do not have your own name on it. It's got the name of the team that worked on this. So if you're wearing them and they find your body, they may misidentify you as one of the Jawbreakers, but or they'll try to figure out if the other four people are alive still. So anyway, let's go look at it real quick. We have this nice cover. Actually, this is a recommend. I know that the crowdfunding campaign is over. However, I believe this is still available on demand in the store there. So you look up, I think it's under Richard C. Meyer, or either Splato Comics or something like that, or even look up Jawbreakers or one of the ongoing campaigns, and you'll be able to pick up this one separately or with something else that's going on that's coming out from Splato Comics. So it's up to you how you want to do it. This is a recommend. There was some issues that I did have with it, but let's take a look at the cover real quick. We've got, I believe his name is Cuffs and Silkworm, and I'm drawing a blank, but I know he's gay. So that's all I can tell you. And this is kind of the nemesis of the whole deal. Now, this was pitched as a origin story. Now, to me, it didn't ring true as an origin. That's one of my beefs about it. Let's talk about, go in the back here. It gives you a little blurb. You should probably read this before you read the story. This might help. Once every century, the Grand Bazaar appears. Inside, anything can be found, haggled over, traded, or bartered. There's only one rule. You cannot use currency or credit to acquire in which that you desire. Nothing has a cost, but everything has a price. The 5 men who will eventually form the Jawbreakers each find themselves in the Grand Bazaar for very different reasons, but they end up banding together for survival. And then it lists the other books that have come out before this. Now, one of the things about the story here that did get me was, even though it is an origin of the Jawbreakers, there didn't seem to be any kind of backstory for each one. Now, maybe that's in one of the other books, but I haven't read those. I was thinking this would be a great jumping on point. It's an origin. However, the backstories really aren't there, so you don't know who they are, and they really do come together at the end, but it's at the very, very end, basically. So let's take a look to see who has worked on this book, and it comes with 2 side stories, too. We'll kind of just look at those very briefly. First one is written by, this Grand Bazaar is written by Richard C. Meyer. The coloring is by Color Channel. The line art is by Aaron Alfecci, I hope I said that right, and the lettering is by Eric Weathers. And then we have the 2 side stories here. Sacred Blood, story and art by Marco Canella, lettering by Eric Weathers again. And Nexus, which is a sci-fi story, Richard C. Meyer and Mike Barron, art by Aaron Alfecci, and lettering by Carlos Manguala. And then also here's some of the covers and posters. The cover of this one is a Kyle Ritten, not Kyle Rittenhouse, but Kyle Ritter. Okay, there was a variant cover too. There was posters by Sashi. I don't have that with me, but I do believe there's a picture of it in this book in the gallery section, so we'll kind of look at that real quick. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at it. Like I said, the art in it is pretty good. The story is pretty fast-paced. In fact, that's one of my other issues I had with that. Sorry about that. Is there seems to need sort of a sorbet panel, if you will, between these action sequences because they're really jammed into one after another, and you're not sure at first if you're dealing with the same characters. I did read this whole book twice, and I did get a lot more information the second time through that helped me piece together the story. That said, there were other missing gaps. Like I said, it's touted as being an origin story, but I really felt like I didn't know the characters that well and kind of had to figure out what they were or what their strengths were in the meantime. See, we get a lot of this things kind of starting in the middle here. There's someone's telling a joke or a story or something right off the bat. Now there is some humor in it, and it is refreshing. However, it's not groundbreaking, but it is fun, and it doesn't hit with a thud. It actually makes you kind of laugh a little bit. So I'm not going to spoil all that, but you'll just see that if you look at here, there's some great art. There's some great action going on here. This is just them kind of getting together, the two main guys, Silkworm, and I can't even think of this guy's name. I'm sorry, but I guess Silkworm's a troublemaker. That's what I can mostly make out of it. He's always getting into fights. He's always disobeying orders. He's always kind of just doing what he wants to do. And here he's getting in a fight with some fellow soldiers because he's holding up the line. And that night, the Grand Bazaar shows up, and this is that mystical, magical bazaar that we spoke about earlier. And it seems to be guided by this demigod of some kind. They really don't explain who she is too much. But we go ahead and find out later that the guy that Silkworm was fighting with earlier, his group, his name's, I think, Sergeant Schneider. His group is going to get in trouble later, and they're going to go rescue them. In the meantime, they come across the dirt dragons, which Silkworm doesn't seem to like at all. And these guys are mercenaries with special explosives in their head. If they go off the wrong direction, they automatically explode. And Silkworm does that on purpose to get them all killed. So he's already digging a hole for himself. So Silkworm gets shipped off, but he jumps out of the plane at a certain point and happens to land down where the Grand Bazaar is taking place. You'll see that in the future here. Takes out a couple guards that are being hassled by some of the locals, I believe. And then they go into the Grand Bazaar and they start finding out this wondrous place. Now, the other thing I kind of wish was in here was more Grand Bazaar trades that were going on. They really did a couple quick ones. Someone was looking for some kind of stone. The other one was Silkworm was asking for some information, but he wasn't willing to trade anything, so then he was thrown into a pit because it was a one-sided trade. I forget there's a word for it. I don't know if I'll see it here. Made more sense the second time I went through it. You can take a look at some of the action there. There you go. That is a doppelganger of Osama bin Laden. Getting his face smashed in. But, overall, it's a good story. I just think it needed more, like spacing between the actions, because it jumped, and I didn't know who these characters were. There was no explanation to them. No kind of a roster would have been nice. I know Spawn does that in their comics every once in a while, and I think that really helps tell who these people are. For me, just jumping in here, I was totally lost the first time I read this. Second time, it made a little bit more sense. And I was able to better tell. Here, this guy is, I believe, is Cuffs. And there's another character, Knife Hand or something like that. I'm probably getting it wrong. But he can summon knives out of his hands. And Silkworm can make things out of silk. It took me a while to figure out what he was doing. I didn't know. And the second time I was like, oh, okay, he's the one that made those cocoons. So yeah, I mean, I wish there was a little bit more explanation of their powers. Valverde, I still not quite sure what her powers are, besides being very beautiful. But it's a fun comic all the way through, and I'll give it that. And I did get the last one, which was Expendables Go to Hell, and I love that comic. I thought that was really well paced. It really told the story well. There was just enough break in it where you didn't feel like you were just jumping from one thing to another without explanation. But as you can see, this one, you know, there's a lot going on in here. It's pretty exciting stuff. I'm not going to give everything away in case you are interested in purchasing this in the future. And there's the demon god, or whatever you want to call it. Now it turns out there's a cute ending for this on this story. There's another character called Hell Priest, and apparently, I think he's got the power of seduction. Even though he is a priest, he's got the little collar and everything. But I'm not quite sure. I just don't know for sure. We see him at the end here. Then the second little short story is Sacred Blood, and this one was a little hard to understand as well for kind of different reasons. I just didn't realize it was hard for me to tell the good guys from the bad guys when they were fighting in this. So I was mistaking one of the bad guys for being one of the Jawbreakers. And that kind of took me a while to figure out if I caught it in the second read through. So eventually I did get it. And it has a nice ending as well. Fulfilling story, nice roundup ending on it. And finally, the last story in here. You can see the art, really crazy stuff. Get to the second story is Nexus. And I don't know if it's called Nexus 2. But that also kind of had like a nice ending as well. So all of them have like good endings. No politics, just a lot of action, a lot of fun. That's what we want in our comics. There could be a little bit more exposition. I wouldn't mind that. A little bit more explanation. Go ahead and mansplain if you have to, whatever you call it. And we'll get to the art gallery here. You can take a look at what we got here going on. Boy, this video is going to be a little longer than I thought. I believe this might be the poster. It's something similar to that. Got another room. And then also the process of putting a page together. You might have seen my sock feet there for a second. All right. Jawbreakers Forever. This is the next book coming up. I've already signed up for it. We'll be getting it, I believe, in the fall. You can see the artwork on here is really intricate. The line. And it will be full color, as we see in the logo there. Some really pretty nice stuff. This is still available on Indiegogo. So look up Jawbreakers Forever. You can do an add-on and get the probably get this other book, Grand Bazaar, as well, or some of the other ones that are still out there. There's a couple campaigns going on right now, so don't delay if you want to get them, because you can get them bundled and then you don't have to pay twice for shipping. And then a good, nice thank you from the publisher, Richard C. Meyer, down at the border in McAllen, Texas. Oh man, I just got out of Texas in November and I am so happy. I just love it here in California. I know it's the weakest state as far as politics go, but boy, you can't beat the weather. All right, man. Jawbreakers, recommended. Grand Bazaar. We'll see you next time at the Temple of Tomes. Thanks for stopping by and watching this. Please like, please subscribe if you haven't. Please leave comments. We'll see you next time at the Temple of Tomes. This is Indie Comics Jones bidding you adieu.